Hare Krishna. Happy Nrisimha Chaturdasi to you all, and welcome to our evening katha. We hope all of you are safe and sound, and in this very strange time taking advantage to increase your bhajan, increase your sadhana, increase your hearing and chanting. We were just watching the Nrisimha Abhishek in Mayapur, on Mayapur TV. It was better than being there actually. Very, very wonderful. So naturally today being Nrisimha Chaturdasi, we'll discuss Nrisimhadev Lila from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I guess the natural song to sing on Nrisimha Chaturdasi is good old Jayadev Goswami's song. Namaste Narasimhaya, Namaste Narasimhaya, Pralada Lada Daine, Pralada Lada Daine, Hiranya Kashipur Bhaksha, Hiranya Kashipur Bhaksha, Shilatam Ghana Kalae, Shilatam Ghana Kalae, Ito Nrisimha Parato Nrisimha, Nrisimha Parato Nrisimha, Yato Yato Yamita To Nrisimha, Yato Yato Yamita To Nrisimha, Bahir Nrisimha Hridaye Nrisimha, Hir Nrisimha Hridaye Nrisimha, Narasimha Madim Sadanam Prapadye, Nrisimha Madim Sadanam Prapadye, Tavakara Kamala Bade Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hari, Jai Jagadisa Hari, Jai Jagadisa Hari, Tavakara Kamala Bade Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hari, Jai Jagadisha Hari, Jai Jagadisha Hari, Jai Nrisimhadev, Jai Nrisimhadev, Jai Nrisimhadev, Jai Nrisimhadev, Nrisimhadev, Jaya Nrisimhadev, Jaya Nrisimhadev, Jaya Nrisimha, Jaya Narahari, 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 Jai Bhakta Prahlad, Jai Prahlad Maharaj, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Bolo Bhakti Vigavina Sri Nrisimhadev Bhagwan Ki, Bhaktaraj Prahlad Maharaj ki, Tai Go Premanande Hari Hari Bo. So again, we welcome you to our evening katha and wish you all a very happy Nrisimha Chaturdasi. We were just watching on Mayapur TV the Abhishek, wonderful Abhishek of Nrisimhadev, this huge Nrisimhadev deity in Mayapur. It's amazing, without his cloth, you can see that he's got his right foot forward and his left foot is back, and he's ready to jump. When he's all fully dressed, you can't notice so much, but now you can see like this. So Nrisimhadev is one of devotees' favorite Leelas, and it's also a very favorite of mine, because when I first became a devotee, of course we were dabbling in impersonal philosophy, so our whole idea was everything is one. We are all God, you're God, I'm God, we're all God. And we'd speculate at the speed of mind about the absolute truth, and we'd always come to the conclusion that it's beyond words. Or we go on all night long speculating and speculating, and then we come to the conclusion, there's nothing to be said. And then we feel frustrated, beyond words, and why are you talking? If there's nothing to be said, what did you just say all that for? So I was frustrated. So, because I knew I wasn't going to stop talking, and even before as a devotee, people told me that you don't tell stories, you tell movies. So the first thing I asked Bhavananda, who made me a devotee, I said, but Bhavananda isn't all talking nonsense? He said, yes, unless you're chanting Hare Krishna or you're talking about Krishna. That is a transcendental sound vibration that will liberate your consciousness from this material platform. And I was so relieved. This was such we can talk about Krishna. So the only story I knew was Nrisimhadev. So any new person came in the temple, immediately grabbed them, take another picture of Nrisimhadev ripping apart Hiranyakashipu and start telling this story. I don't know what new people thought, but anyway, that was the only story I knew, so that's the only story I told. And Lochan Das in his Chaitanya Mangala, he mentions that Mahaprabhu 100 times heard Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj. We always hear about Mahaprabhu and his very intimate Leelas, hearing Krishna, very intimate Krishna Leela, but Lochan Das mentions that he specifically heard 100 times Prahlad Leela, 100 times Dhruva Maharaj Leela. That we can understand our real position as eternal servant of God. Then we can go to higher things. So, story begins, of course, way back. We know that Jai and Vijay were cursed by the four Kumaras, because they were walking around like little children, and little children don't know what's permitted, what's not permitted, so they just decided to walk into Vaikuntha, and Jai and Vijay put their swords and stopped them, and they said, who are you to stop us? And they cursed them that you'll become demons. Then Lord appeared and said, sorry about my guards here, I'm responsible for them, so please forgive them. But anyway, I will modify the curse. You can take 7 lives as devotees or 3 lives as demons. But Jai and Vijay, they realized Lord wanted to fight, because this Birya Ras is one of the 12 rasas. And how can Lord fight with anyone except his own devotee? Nobody's qualified to fight with Lord, because he can finish everybody else off by the material nature only. So they discussed one another and said, well, 7 lives is a long time, maybe 3 we should take as a demon, give the Lord some pleasure and come back quick to Vaikuntha. We don't want to stay away too long. So I think it was Jai who became Hiranyaksh, and our story begins just after Hiranyaksha is killed by Lord Braha. Then Hiranyakashipu was furious. And in this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni is explaining the story to Yudhishthira Maharaj. And he tells him, my dear Yudhishthira Maharaj, Hiranyakashipu, his lips were trembling, he was ferocious. And he became so angry that his brother had been killed by Lord Vishnu. But he began to comfort everyone, giving them knowledge about the soul. The soul is eternal and he didn't actually die. It's amazing that all these demons, they know all this philosophy. But anyway, so he gave them tried to comfort them that don't worry about it, it's okay. Soul doesn't die. So in this way, he decided to perform great penances and austerities in order to become more powerful than anyone in the universe. Actually, his desire was to become immortal, and become even wanted to lord it over Lord Brahma. And he figured Lord Brahma performed so many penances and austerities because Lord Brahma, I will also perform penances and austerities. So he went to Mandarachala mountain, because the mountains we call Achal, because all day long when you come on Prikamapudim we were telling you cello, 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 but the mountains they don't cello, so they're Achal, Himachal, Nilachal, Sundarachal. So this was Mandarachal. And in the valley there, he stood on his toes with his arms stretched out. Now nobody in history had ever done austerities like this for 100 years. Which years? Celestial year, demigod years. Finally, light began to shine from his back of his head and heat began to disturb everyone in the universe. And even the earth was trembling as he stood there like this. So finally, smoke began to come from the back of his head from the power that he was gaining from this severe austerity. And that began to bother everyone in the universe. The heat was bothering everyone, and all the demigods, they left their places, unable to remain due to the heat. Finally they went to Lord Brahma. And they said, you have to see what this guy wants. He's going to burn us all up and destroy us. So Lord Brahma said, don't worry, I already know everything. I said, but you know what he wants. He wants to take over your position. He wants to become immortal. He wants to become Lord of the entire creation. Said, Brahma, I know everything. Don't worry, I will take care of the situation. So then Lord Brahma, he got on his swan airplane, along with Bhrigu Rishi and Daksha and many other great sages that came along with him. And he came down to Mandarachala, but he was unable to see Hiranyakashipu, because he had been performing penance and austerities, standing there for so long that ants and termites and worms and flies and everything had eaten away not only his flesh, but his blood, his fat, his everything. Only his bones were left. And he was maintaining his life airs just circulating within his bones. And Yudhishthira Maharaj says, nobody has ever done austerity like this ever in the universe, nor in the future will anybody do like this. So he couldn't see him because termites had built a big mound over top of his body. Then Lord Brahma, suddenly he saw where the light was emanating from, and he greeted Hiranyakashipu that no one has ever done austerities like you. This is most amazing. Whatever you want, I will grant you. And then he took some water from his kamandalu and sprinkled it on the bones of Hiranyakashipu, and suddenly he broke out of that termite mound with a beautiful body, golden, shining like molten gold, and very strong that even thunderbolt couldn't hurt it. And when Hiranyakashipu saw that Lord Brahma was there in his swan airplane with all these sages and rishis, he immediately fell down flat and offered his obeisances. Then he began to glorify Lord Brahma, but he glorified him in the way that if he was the Supreme Personality of God. Lord Brahma is the engineer of the universe, but he's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he began to offer prayers that you're the origin of everything, everything is run by your energy, you're the Supreme Person in this whole universe. So many beautiful prayers. And then he said, Lord Brahma asked him, what is it that you desire? I'm prepared. You must know that I'm prepared to give you whatever you want, because nobody has performed austerities like you. And Hiranyakashipu said, I want to become immortal. I want to become immortal. Such austerity no one knows. 100 years on the tips of my toes. You make me immortal. Grant me the wish that I won't drop dead. And Lord Brahma said, but even I, Lord Brahma, though my life is billions and trillions of years, I also have to die. That I can't give you. So Prabhupada explains in one lecture that the demons, they're very intelligent. He thought that by indirect definition he'll become immortal. He said, all right, grant me the wish that I will not be killed by any being in the 8,400,000 species, that I won't be killed by the demigods, I won't be killed on the land, sea, or the air, nor inside a building or outside a building, or in the daytime or the nighttime. In so many ways he almost covered everything. And there's one Pandit I met here in Vrindavan, he says one of the things that he wished was that I won't be killed even in the 12 months. Therefore Lord had to invent this Purushottam Mas. And according to that Pandit, actually the real Nrisimha Chaturdashi only comes every 19 years when there's Purushottam month in that particular time. Yeah, I can't be killed by any weapon, and so many benedictions. He said, but Prabhupada says, Lord is so intelligent, he kept all the benedictions intact, but still he will see he killed him. But demons think they're they're most intelligent, but Lord is more intelligent than demons. So after he got all, Lord Brahma said, tatastu, tatastu, whatever, granted. Then Hiranyakashipu became very happy. Death, close your port, because now I, Hiranyakashipu, am immortal! Then he came down to the earth, or to the heavens actually. He began to persecute all the demigods and drove them out of their places. He took over Indra's palace and installed himself inside. He stopped the Brahmins from performing yagyas. He just made a disturbance to the whole universe. And all the demigods had to go into hiding. And they were frightened if he would just move his eyebrows a little cross. They would all tremble. What's he going to do now? So finally they were so disturbed, all the demigods went to again see Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma went to Svetadweep and asked the Lord. Lord said, don't worry, I will take care of him. He will, by his persecution of his pure devotee child, he will be killed. He will get his end. So, meanwhile, Hiranyakashipu had a very beautiful son named Prahlad, who was an ocean of good qualities, but still his father was always persecuting him. And Hiranyakashipu's guru was the guru of all the demons, Shukracharya, and he had two sons named Sanda and Amarka. And he turned Prahlad over to those two sons of Shukracharya to be trained to become a demon. But somehow or other, no matter what they taught him, because they were teaching him all about politics, how someone is your friend, someone is your enemy, but he was a great devotee of the Lord. He saw everyone as the eternal servant of Krishna. He didn't like these teachings. And no matter what they did, they couldn't get him to accept these teachings. Finally one day, Hiranyakashipu called his son and sat him on his lap, and he said, my dear son, what is the best thing you have learned? He said, the best thing I have learned that this material world is like a dark, deep, dark well with no water in it, full of suffering, and the best thing to do is to give it up and go to the forest, especially Vrindavan, go to the Van, especially Vrindavan, and execute devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Oh, the intelligence of children is spoiled in this way. Then he called Sanda Amarka. Somehow our enemies are spoiling his intelligence. You take very good care of him and teach him to be a demon. So again, they tried to teach him politics and economic development and sense gratification and all of the things that demons should do. And still he wouldn't listen to anything. So after some time, again Hiranyakashipu called Prahlad, sat him on his lap. He said, what is the best thing you have learned from your teachers? He said, I haven't learned anything nice from my teachers, but I did hear from my spiritual master Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. That one should perform devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, by all these 9 ways. Hiranyakashipu's lips began to tremble. His eyes became red with anger. He said, "Dust, you crazy boy, what are you doing?" He threw him from his lap. And he called the demons, "Kill this boy. He's become, taken the side of our enemies." So all the demons came with their weapons and they began to persecute the tender body of Prahlad, calling out, yelling out, "Chop him, pierce him, chop him, pierce him." But somehow or other their spears and trishuls were unable to harm his body. Then they threw him under the foot of a huge elephant. That elephant picked him up and put him on his back and took him for a victory ride. They put him in a pot of boiling oil. The oil became cold. They threw him from a mountain peak, and all the rocks became soft when he landed. They threw him into a pit of snakes. In so many ways, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill his son, but he was unable. Then Hiranyakashipu began to consider, this boy appears to be immortal. He cannot be killed in any way. He must have some special power. Maybe by my maltreatment of him, I will be killed. Maybe I will be killed. I don't know. Then he called again Sandanamarka. He said, "You must be very careful. Somebody has infiltrated our school system and he's trying to become a Hare Krishna. You have to be very careful. Don't let those Hare Krishnas near him." So Sandanamarka promised they would be more careful. As he chastised them. "What are you teaching my son? I'm going to chop off your heads." And he said, no, we're not doing it. He has this natural attraction for Lord Vishnu. We don't know where it's come from. Anyway, be careful with him. So he went back to the school. Again, they tried to teach him how to become a nice demon. But during the recess, he would gather all his friends and tell them that this material world is illusion. You have to, all the sense gratification only leads to frustration. There's no happiness, real happiness here. Happiness is in service to the Lord. And you have to take up devotional service of the Lord. And the student said, "Look, Prahlad, now we're young, let us play. We'll take up Krishna consciousness when you're old." As many people think like that now let me enjoy, then when I'm old I'll go to the temple and join the ashram. When I was president, so many old people would come. They can't hardly walk, they can't even hear anything. You have to need 20 people just to take care of them. Then when their body could actually do some service for the Lord, they were enjoying sense gratification. Now their body's no good for sense gratification. They want to come and so-called serve the Lord, but rather take service. So Prahlad Maharaj said, "Look, your life is 100 years. Of that you spend almost 50% just sleeping. Then the first 10 years you're just playing. Next 10 years you're in studying. The next 20, 30 years you're engaged in your household activities and sense gratification. And the last, whatever's left, you're too feeble to do anything. You have to take up Krishna consciousness now." And he began to preach very heavily to them that this material world is not our real situation. Our real situation is in the spiritual world, which is eternal. All the enjoyment here is only temporary and leads to frustration only. And no matter how much you try to gratify your senses, you'll never be satisfied. Look at my father. He has all the gratification in the world. Still he's unsatisfied. Still he's very angry. And he began to preach in so many ways. And he said, main thing is you have to hear and chant about the Lord. Especially you have to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, Hiranyakashipu heard that something's going on funny in this. Oh no, one part is there. Then the boy said, "Where did you get all this knowledge? You keep talking about some spiritual master, but we don't know anyone besides Sanda and Amarka. Who is your spiritual master?" He said, "When my father went for penance and austerities in Mandara Achal, then the demigods attacked and they ransacked his palace and they took my mother Kayadu. And as they were taking her away, Narad Muni appeared. because Narad Muni always appears just when at the right time. And Narad Muni appeared and said, "Where are you taking this woman?" And Indra said, "We meant no harm to her, but she is carrying the seed of this great demon within her womb. So we were going to keep her until he appears, and then we'll eliminate him from the world, because he will be worse than his father." And Narad Muni said, "She is carrying a great devotee of the Lord within her womb. You couldn't kill him even if you tried for 100 years. You let her come with me." So Indra said, "Yes, sir, whatever you say. You please take her." So Narad Muni took her to his ashram. When we were in Govardhan Prikama, we told that story about Narada Kund, because Narad Muni couldn't have an ashram anywhere else. So he stayed here in Braj, and Narad Muni instructed my mother about spiritual life, and I was sitting in the womb, because by that time I had been in my mother's womb for 7 months. So it's very important for the ladies, when the child is 7 months, you read loudly and chant loudly to give benefit to your child. So I heard all about spiritual life, all about the worthlessness of material life, all about the glories of the wonderful Supreme Lord Vishnu, who's a friend of every living entity. I heard all these things while I was in the womb. I got all this information. And she prayed to Narad that, please, as long as I stay here until my husband returns, that my child should only be born after. He gave her this benediction. So he heard all this information. Finally, Hiranyakashipu returned, and Kaidu was returned, and Prahlad was born. So that's how I heard from my spiritual master, Narad Muni. So then again, Hiranyakashipu called his son and said, again he asked him, what is the best thing? Where do you get your powers and everything? He said, my dear, best of the Asuras, those who have uncontrolled senses are unable to understand spiritual life. Even by penance, even by austerity, even by hearing, even by any means they cannot understand. It's not possible to explain to you what spiritual life is all about. But you should take up the service of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, again you're talking about this Vishnu. Where is this Vishnu? Well, Baba, he's everywhere. He's everywhere? Then let me see him! This is very important, because actually Hiranyakashipu is a devotee. He's Bijay, I think. So he wants to see the Lord. That's what he mentions right there. I want to see him. Where is this Lord? You show him to me. He said, Baba, he's everywhere. He's everywhere? Is he here? Is he here? Is he in this pillar here? And Prahlad said, Baba, he's everywhere. He's in that pillar. And Hiranyakashipu, I'll show you your Lord. And he took his sword and he smashed the pillar. And this cracking sound came that went through the entire universe. All the demigods thought the end of the world has come. They were all crying. And Hiranyakashipu was trying to figure out where this horrible cracking sound is coming from. Suddenly from within the pillar, this strange entity appeared to be half man, half lion. Either he's man or animal. Half man, half lion. And his eyes are glowing red. His mane is shining like the sun at the time of dissolution and making his face even larger. And he's got a huge mouth with his tongue is licking back and forth. With his sharp jaws are there. His chest is as broad as a thunderbolt, or broad as a door. And his waist is very thin. And his hair is shining like the moonlight. And he immediately whipped out his sword and he got ready to fight with this strange being. And there was a small fight, and Hiranyakashipu grabbed him. Then he let him slip out of his hand. Hiranyakashipu became very puffed up. Oh, the Lord's afraid of me. So again he battled with the Lord, but it was just like a moth flying into a fire. If a moth flies into a fire, he's destroyed. Nobody could see. He charged at Nrisimhadev and completely disappeared. The next they saw he was fighting the Lord from every different direction, and the Lord just grabbed him and took him They were in the assembly hall. He took him to the doorway of the assembly hall. So you cannot say he's right in the doorstep, so he's neither inside nor outside. He placed him on his lap, so he's not on the land, sea, or air. It was dusk. You can't say it is daytime or nighttime. He didn't use any weapons, his own nails. He ripped Hiranyakashipu apart. It was Purushottam Maas, so it wasn't one of the 12 months. What else was there? Anyway, he kept all of Brahma's benedictions intact. Later he warned Lord Brahma, next time don't give so many benedictions. I really had to work hard to kill off this demon. Prabhupada said that at one tape. He said, Brahmaji, next time you don't give so many complicated benedictions. It was really a trick to get this guy. So he ripped him apart. He put the intestines around his neck like a garland. Horrible scene like this. Then all of the demons attacked, and Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrisimhadev with his claws, he smashed all the demons. Then he was roaring and licking his lips with his sharp tongue and looking all around, and all the demigods came and they tried to pacify the Lord. Lord Brahma offered beautiful prayers, and then Indra also offered prayers, the Kinnaras offered prayers, the Gandharvas offered prayers, the Kimpurusas offered prayers, the Yakshas offered prayers, Bhrigu Muni offered prayers. Everyone was offering prayers, but Lord was not pacified in any way. Even Lakshmi came and said, no, iska mood kharab ho gaya. I'm not going near him, he's in bad mood. So finally Narad pushed Prahlad, you have to go and pacify. So Prahlad was fearless because he knew this was his own Lord. So he went before the Lord and paid his obeisance. The Lord was very happy. And then he placed his hand on Prahlad's head, because Prahlad was just a little boy. How will he offer prayers to the Lord? But as soon as Lord put his soft hand, palm on Prahlad's head, immediately he was filled with Brahma Gyan, and he began to glorify the Lord in so many ways. You are the beginning, middle, and you are the be-all and end-all of existence. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing exists without you. Everything, this material energy is your illusory energy. Everyone is completely enamored of this illusion. He offered so many beautiful prayers to the Lord. And then Lord said, what do you wish for, desire? And Prahlad said, I'm not in business, that I'm doing service to you to get something from you. That is business relationship. I'm just happy serving you and chanting your glories. He said, no, Prahlad, you take some benediction. No, I don't want any benediction. In this way, Lord finally said, all right, doesn't matter, but I will give you so many benedictions. You will become the king. You will live for so many thousands of years. Then afterwards you will come to be with me in Vaikuntha. No, there's no problem you have whatsoever. And then Prahlad said, well, actually, there is one benediction that I want. My father, just see a devotee, his father tried to kill him in so many ways, and still he's thinking of his welfare. He said, my father was a great demon, he had no ability to understand you. Please make him a devotee somehow or another. And Lord was so pleased, he said, not just your father, 21 generations backwards and forwards will be liberated from material existence. And it's not in Bhagavatam, but I heard in some other Puran that Prahlad also asked for the benediction that you won't kill anybody in my dynasty. Just like we talked the other day about Dhenukasura. He was Sahasik, who was the son of Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj is one of the descendants of Prahlad Maharaj. So Balaram had to kill him. So he took that benediction also. So in this way, this is a wonderful Lila. We're celebrating this Nrisimha Chaturdasi today. We hope you have a wonderful time in your, I guess you can't, many of you can't go to your temples. Here, our Nrisimhadev that we used to do Abhishek came from outside, so we're not letting anybody come from outside. So we had no Abhishek today. Good. Well, they say they're making a small one outside somewhere in the Brahmachari Ashram building. Anyway, we tried to explain a little bit about the wonderful glories of Nrisimha Chaturdasi. And oh yeah, I forgot that. So there's beautiful prayer for glorifying Lord Nrisimhadev. Sri Nrisimha Jai Nrisimha Jai Jai Narasimha Praladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam. What is the other one? Mukhambiram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvato Mukham Nrisingam Bhishanam Badram Mrityum Mrityum Namamyaham. Bhakti Vigavinaza Sri Nrisimhadev Bhagwan Ki Jai. So how many out there looking today? 100 of you, and more will join us later. Anyway, thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a very special day. So we'll meet you here at the same time, 6 o'clock tomorrow. Hare Krishna.